Hello, and welcome to my channel. Philil, close your eyes, lean back, and let yourself be carried away by the story. Surrender yourself to the story for a peaceful sleep. First, subscribe to my channel and leave a comment. But darkness, history's cruelest rulers and the private lives that shaped their power. History often remembers kings and emperors through the lens of conquest, warfare, and political achievement. Their names appear in textbooks beside maps, battles, and that changed the course of nations. Yet behind every throne sat a human being whose personal desires, fears, ambitions, and relationships often influenced events as much as armies and laws. The private lives of rulers have always fascinated historians because they reveal something deeper than public records alone. They show how power affects human behavior and how personal choices can shape the destiny of millions. Tonight, we travel across centuries, continents, to explore some of history's most feared rulers. These men commanded vast empires, inspired loyalty and terror, and left behind legacies that continue to provoke debate. Their stories are filled with violence, political intrigue, and ruthless decisions. They are also stories of marriages, family conflicts, obsessions, and private struggles. By examining sides of their lives, we gain a clearer understanding of the people behind the crowns. Our journey in ancient Rome. Few names in history carry as much notoriety as Caligula. Born Gaius Caesar Augustus Germanicus in the year 12, he was the son of the celebrated Roman general Germanicus. As a child, he accompanied soldiers during military campaigns and wore a miniature military uniform. The soldiers affectionately called him Caligula. It was a nickname that would follow him for the rest of his life. When Caligula became emperor in the year 37, many Romans initially celebrated. They hoped he would restore stability after the increasingly suspicious reign of Emperor Tiberius. At first, Caligula appeared promising. He granted bonuses to soldiers, held public games, and was welcomed by the people. Everything changed after a severe illness only months into his reign. Ancient sources describe a dramatic shift in his behavior. Whether these accounts were exaggerated by hostile historians remains debated. But is little doubt, his rule became increasingly unpredictable. He ordered executions, humiliated senators, and ruled through fear. Stories about Caligula's private life have become legendary. Ancient writers accused him of numerous affairs and shocking behavior. Historians today mate many of the most sensational claims with caution, because Roman authors often exaggerated the flaws of unpopular rulers. However, Reliable evidence suggests that Caligula engaged in multiple relationships and frequently used infidelity as a political. Marriage in Rome was rarely about romance. It was a matter of power, status, and influence. The emperor's personal life became intertwined with authority. His decisions increasingly reflected a belief that no law or tradition should limit his desires. This attitude extended beyond relationships and to government itself. He viewed opposition as a personal insult and punished it accordingly. After less than 4 years in power, members of his own guard assassin. He was only 28 years old. His reign became one of history's earliest examples of how absolute authority can erode restraint and accountability. The Roman Empire soon found another ruler whose reputation would rival Caligula's. Nero became emperor at the age of 16. Initially guided by advisors, he showed signs of becoming a capable ruler. Yet his confidence grew, so did his desire for personal control. Nero loved music, theater, and public performance. Unlike most Roman aristocrats, he openly appeared stage, something many in the elites considered beneath an emperor. His personal relationships became a source of controversy. Nero married several times and maintained relationships that generated political tension throughout his reign. The deaths of family members, including hating his mother Agrippina, became among the most infamous episodes in Roman history. Ancient sources describe a relationship marked by manipulation, mistrust, and eventually violence. Nero's reign coincided with the Great Fire of Rome in the year 64. Although later generations often claimed he played music while the city burned, historians consider this unlikely. What remains true is that the disaster transformed Rome and permanently affected Nero's reputation. As opposition increased, Nero relied increasingly on repression. Executions multiplied. Political rivals disappeared. Fear spread through the elite classes. Eventually, support collapsed. Facing rebellion and abandonment, Nero fled Rome and ended his own life. According to tradition, his final words reflected regret that such an artist was dying. His downfall demonstrated how personal ambition and public authority can become dangerously intertwined. Several generations later, other Roman emperors would challenge the dignity of the imperial office. Commodus inherited power as the son of Aurelius, one of Rome's most respected rulers. Unlike his father, Commodus showed little interest in philosophy or administration. Instead, he became fascinated by spectacle and personal glory. He presented himself as living hero and increasingly demanded worship. As left him into the arena, where he participated in gladiatorial performances. though these contests were carefully arranged for his safety. Many Romans viewed them as degrading to the imperial office. His personal lifestyle reflected extraordinary extravagance. Surrounded by luxury and constant praise, became detached from the realities facing the empire. Corruption flourished while political instability grew. Eventually, a conspiracy formed among those closest to him. In the year 192, Commodus was assassinated, ending that reign that many Romans viewed as symbolic of imperial decline, while produced many controversial rulers. History's most feared monarchs emerged elsewhere. In the 16th century Russia, Ivan IV became known to history as Ivan the Terrible. The title originally implied or and power rather than simple cruelty. But his actions ensured a darker interpretation. Ivan experienced a traumatic childhood. Political struggles among noble families exposed him to an end insecurity from early age. Historians often point to these experiences as factors that influenced his later behavior. As ruler, Ivan expanded Russian territory significantly, yet he also unleashed campaigns of terror against perceived enemies. The Oprichnina, a state policy that granted extraordinary powers to his loyal followers, became associated with brutal repression. His personal life was marked by multiple marriages and profound emotional turmoil. Death of his beloved first wife deeply affected him. Contemporary accounts suggest that afterward he became increasingly suspicious and unstable. One of the most tragic stories associated with Ivan involves the Delves' son during confrontation. Every detail ported by later sources is accurate remains debated, but the incident symbolizes the destructive consequences of uncontrolled rage. Ivan's transformed Russia. It also left scars that endured for generations across Europe. Another ruler pursued power, marriage rather than terror. Henry Hıstory of England is remembered primarily for his 6 marriages. Yet behind this famous stories stood a serious political problem. The Tudor dynasty was young and vulnerable. Henry desperately wanted a male heir to secure the succession. His determination reshaped English history. When his marriage to Catherine of Aragon failed to produce the desired outcome, Henry sought an annulment. The dispute ultimately contributed to England's break with the Roman Catholic Church and the creation of a separate national church. Henry's relationships were never merely personal matters. Every marriage carried diplomatic consequences. Every courtship attracted international attention. Every birth and death influenced calculations. As the years passed, Henry became increasingly authoritarian. Former allies fell from favor. Ministers lost their positions. Some lost their lives. His personal desires and political authority became inseparable. Through his marriages, Henry altered the religious and constitutional future of England far to the east, centuries earlier. Had pursued an entirely different obsession. As the first emperor to unify China, Qin Shi Huang achieved one of history's greatest political accomplishments. He standardized weights, measures, currency, and writing systems across a vast territory, yet greatest fear was death. Obsessed with immortality, he invested enormous resources into finding ways to extend his life. Alchemists searched for miraculous substance. Expeditions sailed in pursuit of legendary solutions. Ironically, some treatments believed to promote immortality likely harmed his health. Historical report that mercury-based compounds among the substances consumed by the emperor. His personal fear shaped national policy. Massive construction projects consumed labor and wealth. His enormous tomb complex, guarded by the famous Karak-Ka army, wrecked preparations for existence beyond death. Qin Shi Huang's life reminds us that even the most powerful rulers cannot escape human mortality. Another figure whose name became synonymous with fear emerged in Eastern Europe. Vlad III of Wallachia, often known as Vlad the Impaler, ruled during a period of constant conflict. Surrounded by powerful enemies, he developed a reputation for extraordinary severity. His preferred method of punishment shocked contemporaries and inspired enduring legends. Yet Vlad's actions occurred in a brutal political environment where displays of strength were often considered essential for survival. Unlike many rulers in this story, relatively little reliable information exists regarding his romantic life. What survives instead is a portrait of a ruler focused almost entirely on military and political concerns. His legacy eventually contributed to the fictional character Dracula. Though the historical Vlad differed from the literary vampire, as centuries passed, cruelty assumed new forms. King Leopold II of Belgium never ruled a vast European empire in the traditional sense. Instead, he gained control over Congo Free State in Central Africa. What followed became one of the darkest chapters in colonial history. Economic exploitation drove policies that caused immense suffering. Millions experienced forced labor, violence, and social disruption. Tynanicism eventually grew strong enough to force political change. Leopold cultivated a sophisticated public image in Europe, while conditions in the Congo remained largely hidden from public view. His story demonstrates how distance and bureaucracy conceal brutality just as effectively as armies. Long before Leopold, a Nokan conqueror, had transformed much of the known world, Genghis Khan began life under difficult circumstances on the Mongolian steppe. Through military skill, strategic vision, and determination, rival tribes had and created the foundation of the largest contiguous land empire in history. His campaigns brought enormous destruction to many regions. Entire cities devastated during military operations. At the same time, the empire facilitated trade, communication, and cultural exchange across vast distances. Genghis Khan's family life carried enormous political importance. Marriages helped establish alliances, while descendants spread across the empire. Modern genetic studies have even suggested that a remarkable number of people, if people may share distant ancestry connected to his lineage, his personal, political lives became deeply entwined. Reno's family relationships helped sustain imperial power. Finally, we arrive at the court of the Acheronth of France, known as the Sun King. Louis XIV transformed the French monarchy into a symbol of magnificence. Became the center of European court culture. His reign lasted more than 70 years, one of the longest in recorded history. Louis maintained several important romantic relationships during his lifetime. Unlike many rulers who attempted to hide such matters, aspects of his personal life became widely known at court. These relationships influenced appointments, patronage, and political networks. Individuals close to the king often gained access to extraordinary opportunities. Yet Louis understood something many rulers did not. Depended not only on force but also on image. Through ceremonies, architecture, fashion, and carefully managed appearances, he created a public identity that reinforced royal authority. His example demonstrated how personal charisma could become a political instrument. Looking back across these centuries, a pattern emerges. The private rulers' reign remained private for long. Their marriages influenced diplomacy. Their desires shaped policy. Their fears inspired wars, reforms, and monumental projects. Their personal choices affected millions of people they would never meet. History's cruelest rulers were not monsters from another world. They were human beings operating within systems that granted extraordinary authority. Some used that authority responsibly. Others allowed out ambition, fear, vanity, or obsession to guide their decisions. Their stories remind us power does not change human nature as much as it reveals it. The throne magnifies whatever already exists within the individual. Compassion becomes influence. Wisdom becomes leadership, but insecurity, cruelty, and unchecked desire can become forces capable of reshaping entire nations. And so, as the candles burn low in distant palaces, long roost to ruins, and the echoes of royal courts fade into history, the fate of empires is often decided not only in battlefields and in council chambers, but also in the private hearts of those who hold power. The crowns have vanished. The kingdoms have changed. Yet the questions remain the same as they were centuries ago. What happens when one moons gains too much authority? What choices do they make when no one can challenge them? And how often does the story of a nation become the story of a single human being? History continues to offer its answers, one ruler at a time.